Hi, I didn't want to give everything away with Hillary in case she called the cops. But today on Drive, I want to take you to places that are off limits, that sit behind do not enter signs, where you are warned to stay away. And I'm going to introduce you to members of a 15,000 strong Perth community for whom the words no entry read like an invitation as they explore the old and abandoned and the off limits. And while I tell their stories, I want to know about your willingness to leave the path or ignore the sign, the keep out sign. Have you wandered into the out of the way, and what did you find there? Join me today as we boldly go where we're not allowed to. That's how we start Drive today, Wednesday. Welcome. And we're going to go to places in Perth that we're probably not allowed to go. And I wonder how many times in your life you've gone on such journeys. That's next on Drive, where it's 14 minutes to 4 o'clock. Have you ever walked by a boarded up, abandoned warehouse or shopping strip and thought, I'd love to sneak in and have a look inside? Well, it turns out that there is a 15,000 strong community of urban explorers who do just that, or at least are interested in doing just that, because they're a social media group as well. So maybe they just talk about how much they'd like to go and do that. But what they all share is the beauty in the decay of Perth's forgotten or hidden structures. They're fascinated with our urban landscape and the stories that those structures tell. Jake calls himself a passionate urban explorer, and he joins me on the program. G'day, Jake.
Hello, how's it going?
Not bad. Describe your life as an urban explorer, Jake.
Oh gosh, where do I start? It's a really interesting one actually. It's like a very multifaceted kind of hobby, I would say. Do it for many different reasons. Say as an urban explorer, it's always about kind of that. There's always something ominous about it, something quite intriguing. You know, as you said, you ever go past those kind of places and wonder, oh, what's in there? What was the history behind it? And yeah, just kind of sort of exploring what something was in its current sort of state, sort of taking a snapshot of where it's at now, what sort of the future holds, and what it previously was.
The difference between you and me, I think, Jake, is that you try and get inside to have a look, whereas I walk past and don't get any answers to the questions.
You'll be surprised. Sometimes you'll go into these places and still not find the answers. There's, a lot of structures you can find a lot of information on, whether it be talking to people, researching online, or perhaps some even the clues lay within. But there'll be a lot of places that you come across and you still won't get the answers to what it once was. And I've had a few places that I've sort of been to and wondered, it bothers me. I can't figure out what this place was or what it is and what happened to it. And sometimes you'll just sort of be up at night and you'll never get the answer to it in some cases.
Okay, so give us a sense. Tell us about the kind of places that you've been into, the kind of places that are interesting and what some of those places might have revealed to you.
Some are quite obvious from the outside and going in reveals just as such. But there's all sorts of different places. A lot of them are in plain sight, some of them well hidden away, ranging from, what would I say, a lot of commercial sort of like structures, businesses that just sort of move on or they go out of business and kind of forget about them. A lot of houses, really old ones as well, have quite a lot of character to them. Commercial businesses seem to be, kind of the big ones that we find out there, but yeah, you find all sorts, even as well, just government buildings as well that they no longer have a use for, or that they have a certain lifespan on them, and they move on to bigger things. So I've seen all sorts of things from TAFEs to hospitals to warehouses to shops to houses to a fish market, even a set of units.
For instance, would you have gone to the old PMH site after they'd started demolishing parts and have a bit of a wander around there?
The concept of going in there is it's certainly a tempting one, but I suppose, given the grey area of urban exploring, you just kind of have to weigh up the risks
I
of
know what you're
certain
saying.
places,
I
right?
know what you're saying. Let's talk about the grey area, Jake. And I guess the grey area, I hinted at it in my opening today when I asked our audience about their experiences going into places where there is a sign that says no entry, or a sign that says keep out, or there's some tape, or there is a suggestion that you might be prosecuted if you go in. Is that sort of part of the thrill of the experience, that you have to weigh up whether you think anyone's going to know that you've actually snuck in and had a look?
It's an
I'm not a
interesting
police
one. Look,
officer, Jake. I need you to know that.
I'm aware. Look, I'm very cognizant of the fact that the activity is a very contentious kind of grey area, as I outlined before. Obviously with the law, and it carries a lot of risk as well. So, look, I'm sure a lot of urban explorers are the same. Sometimes you just have to turn a bit of a blind eye to those kind of things, and you'll find that, look, so long as the place doesn't carry heavy risk to it, or it's something of high danger, then usually those that own those buildings would be more than happy for you to come along and sort of have a look at it, but they don't want to know that you're doing so.
Okay, stay with me, Jake. I think he's starting to relax now, that the questions aren't quite as interrogative as he thought they might be. But I'm asking you, we're talking about Perth's Urban Explorers, and it's a site that has something like 15,000 followers, and they may not all be doing the exploring themselves, but what I get a great sense of is people who would love to know what that was, what happened in this place. I'm going to come back to Jake in just a moment, but I'd love you to tell me about your own experiences. John says, Jeff, back in the day we had a shared house on the cliffs of Rocky Bay in North Fremantle. At the base of the cliff was a tunnel that we ventured into but never quite got to the end. Nick in Victoria Park says, Jeff, about 20 years or more ago, boyfriend, now my husband, was living in North Fremantle. Would often walk into town over the train bridge and through the soon-to-be-developed North Fremantle townhouses. One day we decided to enter a fenced-off building and explore. It was the old roller skating place. The rink was still intact, but lots of rubble and building bits and pieces and dust all round. And I still vividly remember the odd bird and the smell of the place and the ageing Disney character pics peeling off the walls. Jake, I would say that Nick has had the kind of experience that you urban explorers just love.
It certainly sounds like a fun time. That's certainly the sort of stuff that we're interested in when we do our urban exploring.
Do you think it gives you a different view on the world in terms of your outlook, the fact that you get to kind of look behind the curtain a little?
I would say so. It comes back to that sort of ominous point, right? That a lot of people don't get that opportunity to go look at those things for various reasons. And I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah, it's you kind of get this. I definitely look at the world a lot differently, having being in this hobby. Yeah, you definitely get to see behind that curtain for sure.
Now, when I mentioned those 15,000 people on the page, would some of those people be living vicariously through you and your photographs?
I would say a large majority of them are. You'll see a lot of people that regularly post, and those are the ones that are out for adventure. And there's a lot of people that like and comment and ask questions and post up questions. And yeah, I would say there's a lot of people that definitely do live through our activities.
Jake, very nice to hear from you today.
On Yunga Buja, this is Drive with Jeff on ABC Radio Perth.
Now, Paul from Florida asked the question. A question a police officer might ask, one assumes that your trespassing sticky beak has got himself fully insured in case he injures himself. Probably not. No, Paul, I don't think they do, because there's a certain amount of risk. But as we heard from Jake, there's a sort of a measured risk, I think, in the experience. Tell me your stories. Reece said, I climbed on the Rankin platform in Fremantle Harbour before it set sail and had a look around. If you did that now, you'd probably be in jail for terrorism. Thank you for speaking to me. Jana, I think, is in the same business of urban exploring. Hi, Jana.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. What drew you to this world of the do not enter sign?
Well, I got started with a friend in Sydney that had asked me to do some modeling for him. And it kind of like spawned this whole passion for me. There's a lot of reasons why I actually love going to these buildings, though. Mainly it's photographing them. I like looking at the natural decay of buildings and seeing the whole nature reclaiming the structure.
Yes.
It kind of feels like if people were suddenly no longer around, what would happen to these buildings? You know, if everybody got wiped off the face of the earth tomorrow, what would happen to the houses, the businesses? They would just be left there for nature to reclaim them.
It would be. It would be quite bleak, though, and this would be my last radio program. But, Jenna, I know what you're saying. This idea is you go into these places and you see the decay and you see the walls crumbling and maybe some vines and some growth, or it's that remarkable thing, isn't it? It's, you know, starts with moss and lichen and all of a sudden a wall looks different to how it looked before. What do you think have been the most remarkable places that you've been able to photograph as an urban explorer?
There's been quite a big list of really awesome places. Some of my top ones, I went to this house, had about 20 Mercedes left behind. There's a new studio with all the computers, all of the equipment, everything was left untouched.
Yes.
There was a resort, all the rooms were filled with sand. I went into this one embalming room that was filled with human tissues and blood samples. Like, I don't know why they left an entire cabinet full of human tissue samples behind, but a lot of untouched and fully furnished hospitals, hotels, schools, shopping centers. There was a TAFE I went to that had all the professional commercial equipment, like those big heavy-duty cameras.
Yes. Jana, you make me want to be an urban explorer, quite frankly. So we had Jake dancing around the edges of it, saying this is why I do it. And you had Jana saying this is why I photograph it. And these are some of the things that I have seen. I'd like you to tell me, after 4 o'clock today, are you something of an urban explorer? Mark is a wit. I once went to the food court at Yagan Square. It was completely deserted and quite thrilling to walk through a space no one ever visits. I'm an edgy urban explorer like that. Mark, thank you. You've set the bar very low indeed. Are you an urban explorer? Let's talk more about it. You berserk warriors.